Having an ecchi anime in an anime season isn't really that surprising anymore. I think at this point everyone already expects an insane ecchi anime to always be in every anime season. And Winter Anime 2024 was not surprising. However, I did remember that when I was looking at what to watch for the anime season of Winter 2024, there were so many people that were saying how Chained Soldier was going to be the most insane anime of Winter 2024, a series that's about literally our main protagonist being turned into a slave. And that's not exaggeration, that's what actually happens in that series if you haven't watched it. However, Chained Soldier wouldn't be the anime that actually took me by surprise. The ecchi anime that actually took me by surprise was a series that's called Gushing Over Magical Girls, a very unique idea to the Magical Girls animes that you almost never see. Gushing Over Magical Girls is just a very interesting series because you actually can't even find it on YouTube, like it's shadow banned. If you try searching up this anime, you have to put the whole title before you find any clips or any videos of people talking about it. That's just how insane it is that even YouTube has shadow banned this series from their website. But what is Gushing Over Magical Girls even about? Well, as the title suggests, this is about a series of our main female protagonist known as Utena, who seems to be a very shy individual, but there's one thing that she enjoys the most, and that is seeing her magical girls save the day. The group's name is called the Tres Magia, and one day Utena is made to believe that she could turn into a magical girl as well. However, this is not the case because she's actually turned into one of the villains that the magical girls are going to have to fight. And while at first she doesn't want to be part of a villains group or wants to be a villain at all, this is where we get to see that Utena has another side of her that she doesn't show, but once she becomes a villain, she shows it very openly. And let's just say, while she is a huge fan of the Tres Magias, let's just say that she has another way of showing her love. And yeah, we're very quick to see that Utena has a very sadistic side of her in the very first episode. And this is going to be a pattern as the series continues. I can't really describe what she does to the magical girls without YouTube probably taking down this video, so I'll just say this. Think of all the kinks that exist in the world. That's all going to be shown in this anime. I'm pretty sure with that brief description, you already know what this anime is going to include because there is a lot of it, so I won't go into detail. But the series doesn't hold back, showing us what Utena does to these magical girls and to other characters from the series. Now, one thing that is very interesting about this ecchi anime is how this always really interests me, how despite it being ecchi, it actually does try to have a story, and the story is not that bad. While yes, people tend to always focus on the fan service moments or the WTF moments that happen in Gushing Over Magical Girls, there's actually a story being told. Utena is not just a one-dimensional character, she actually does show and has a lot of character development as the series continues. Like I mentioned earlier, before she even became a villain for the magical girls, she used to always be alone. She was somebody that didn't have a lot of friends, and the only thing that seemed to be always making her happy, or at least not fall into depression, was always love for the magical girls, which for some people they can relate with what Utena was experiencing. There are people in the world that don't have a social life, they don't have that many friends, and the only thing that's making them happy or keeping them happy is of course many of their different hobbies or the people that they idolize or are huge fans of. And while yes, Utena is not the most normal person, you do have a bit of sympathy towards Utena because of the lifestyle that she had before she became a villain. Before she became a villain, she didn't really have a lot going in her life, but now that she is a villain, there's going to be many things that will not only impact her lifestyle, but she's going to meet other people that are going to impact her life. And that's exactly what happens when she meets the other characters of the series. One of them being is a girl that goes by the name of Kiwi, who, just like Utena, was also turned into a villain as well. Although, unlike Utena, who was tricked into becoming a villain, Kiwi was very open at becoming a villain because the reason why she just wanted to become a villain at first was because she did not like the magical girls having all the attention. And while at first Kiwi was not a huge fan of Utena and she just clearly showed that she did not like her whatsoever, a certain event happened in the series that completely changed that, because once this happened between them, things just automatically change. Kiwi became an instant fan of Utena and will become the very first person Utena considers a friend, which is something that shows even more of her character development, because even Utena expresses very clearly that before Kiwi, she never really experienced what it's like to have friends or what it's like to hang out. So in a way, she is very grateful to have Kiwi by her side, because now she's experiencing many things that she probably wished she experienced sooner. But this wouldn't be the only friend that she will make once she became a villain, because Utena will meet another girl that goes by the name of Korisu, and she too will be part of her group as well. Not just acting her role as a villain, but also being another friend that Utena would make. And you could tell that Korisu really reminds Utena of her former self, because Korisu is also a shy individual, in which we get to see many moments with her that she too, just like Utena, doesn't have a lot of friends and is always alone playing with her toys. And it's these little moments that makes all the characters all the more interesting, because this series could have been just simply a bunch of fan service and I'm pretty sure people would still watch it, but it's moments like this that not only make us care about the characters but also make us be interested in their character development. But with that being said, Korisu, just like Utena and Kiwi, she also has her insane side as well, and she shows it very openly once she turns into a villain. But of course, the villains aren't the only thing that makes this series interesting, it's also the magical girls as well. The series does a good job also highlighting the many different moments with the magical girls that don't involve them just fighting Utena and her group. It's also showing the kind of people that they are and what led to them becoming magical girls. You have the pink magical girl whose real name is Haruka, but when she's a magical girl, she is named Magia Magenta. And just like any other leader of a magical girl group, she's always trying to do what is right and always trying to stop evil no matter at what cost. Then you have the blue magical girl whose actual name is Sayo, but her magical girl name is Magia Azul, in which at first glance it seems that she's the calmest and the most mature out of the members, but in actuality she also has her own problems as well, and we get to see it very clearly once we see that just like Utena, she tends to also have a side of her, and it's a side that she doesn't express because this goes against what a magical girl should be. And there's even at one point in the series in which Sayo actually shows this side of her to Utena during one of their battles. And once Sayo reveals this side of her to Utena, Utena is disgusted and even confronts her head on in a very intense moment in which we see that Utena is not happy seeing this side of her, because that goes against everything that she expected a magical girl should be, and it's not the image of her magical girls. I think this moment really highlights a very subtle message about idolizing people, and is the fact that while there are some people that you may be huge fans of, you don't really see what kind of person they truly are or what their true personality is. So you should never really fully idolize these people because you don't really know them or what they are like behind closed doors. And I think this moment really highlighted to Utena that not everyone is always going to be the person that you expect them to be, and there's always going to be something that may shock you or may make you view that person completely different from now on. And then you have the yellow magical girl whose actual name is Karuko, but when she's a magical girl, her name is Magia Sulfur, and at first she doesn't seem to be anything bad, but once you see her true personality in which she's actually very aggressive and doesn't hesitate to say what's on her mind, you can see that she's completely different and kind of a contradiction as to what a magical girl should be. And it makes you wonder what led to her being chosen as a magical girl, but once you get the backstory, everything seems to be more clear now. Karuko was the transfer student that ended up being at the same school that Haruka and Sayo were, and at first in this backstory we can tell that she did not want to make any friends and she had no interest in forming connections. But that all completely changed once she met Haruka and Sayo, and once she found out that both of them were magical girls, and once they both felt that she fits right into being a magical girl, her life will completely change. And at first she didn't really seem to be all that interested in becoming a magical girl or be that interested in hanging out with Haruka and Sayo, but over the time she quickly started to get close to them, and we can see that she now doesn't mind being next to them. Once again, it's moments like this that really make it very clear that there is a story being told and it's not just a bunch of fan service being shown. It's showing us that these girls' lives completely changed once they were in the roles of being a magical girl and saving the day. It just goes to show us how all these girls' lives changed as soon as they became either a magical girl or a villain, and how in a way it has made all their lives all the more interesting to live. But while this series does have a very interesting story, it's also very self-aware as to what kind of series they are, and they tend to also have their moments in which they poke fun of the usual things that you would expect a magical girls anime to always have. The most obvious one is of course the big villain group trying to take over the world. This is the case with Enormeta, in which we see that the leader of the villain group wants to take over the world, something that of course Utena is not a fan of because she does not care about world domination. The only thing that she has in her mind is always spending time with her magical girls, which leads to her not only being seen as a traitor, but this of course will lead to Utena fighting members of her very own villain group to stop them from not only taking over the world, but to stop them from trying to get rid of all the magical girls from the world. And while she is able to befriend some members of this villain group, she of course will have to fight with the leader of the group head on. And towards the end we see that Utena is able to defeat the leader of the villain group. Very interesting. Her method of defeating her was very, let's just say, completely different from what we usually see. After those events happen, we will get none other than a classic beach episode, and in this moment we will see that Utena is reflecting back as to everything that has happened in her life and how it has completely become very different now that she has become a villain, and has now accepted that this is going to be something that she's going to have to get used to, but doesn't mind it whatsoever. We also see more character development with Sayo towards the end, which we see that she's starting to embrace her other side that she's been desperately trying to hide. Something that is very similar with how Utena was dealing with it, because like Sayo, Utena did not want to show her sadistic side, but now she's very open about it and isn't bothered by that side of her anymore. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, it's up to you to decide. But overall, this series was good from beginning to end. Yes, I am fully aware that this series isn't probably going to be a lot of people's favorites because there's just a lot of fan service, and I mean a lot. Like there's just so many clips that I can't even show here because of YouTube. But anybody who has watched this series knows that this series gets freaky almost every single time. Like there's no hesitation and there's no holding back when it comes to showing some very particular scenes. But putting that all to the side, it does have a very unique story of someone being able to open up about who they truly are and starting to enjoy and experience life that they didn't expect they were going to be able to do because of how they used to be. I think that's probably one of the things that you see a lot with Gushing Over Magical Girls. We see how characters' lives completely changed once they became either the good guys or the bad guys, and how this is something that's going to be part of their everyday lives from now on, and it's up to them to decide how they're able to balance their normal lives with their secret lives. I think overall Gushing Over Magical Girls has become so popular is because people are glad that these kind of animes are still around and they're still being made, because with the whole censorship in many different medias, it's gotten people very worried that there are going to be some series that are not going to be fully expressive and are going to have to restrict what they can and cannot show. But not with Gushing Over Magical Girls, because they didn't really care. They just did whatever they wanted to do, and they did it with no problems whatsoever. Yes, the series did become controversial, which is something that's not surprising considering what was shown, but that's not something that's going to stop, and it's always going to happen with these kind of series no matter what. But if there's anything that Gushing Over Magical Girls showed us, is that these kind of stories are still going to be made no matter how controversial or how angry the internet gets. But yeah, that's pretty much where I'm going to end today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.